I feel like this song was kind of needed going into spring training, right? It was
Absolutely,
like
it is.
it was like the perfect intro. Well, Around the Diamond fans, welcome to another rousing episode of Around the Diamond. It is Grand Slam Sam and Baseball Bill here,
Hey,
coming to you on another Saturday morning, talking all things baseball. We are back on track with Saturdays. We are not providing you with a special Sunday edition this week. But Bill, how are you doing this morning, my friend? It is quite early where you are.
listen, I'm good, man. I'm awake and alive and alert. That you got spring training, you got pitchers, catchers reporting, you got some news about injuries already. Let's just get into it. I mean, I'm not going to
News
mention
about
any names.
injuries. News about injuries, but we'll talk about the news about the one injury you and I laughed about yesterday.
Oh my gosh, we won't mention
Um,
any names with Jacob DeGrom. I mean, let's get going here. Let's go.
let's
Top
get
fan
this
rivalry
started.
followers. Let's do
Let's
this.
get this started. Well, yes, as Bill has mentioned, we are in spring training. It is officially started. Pitchers and catchers have reported to all camps. There, it is official. Players will start arriving this week. Um, Primarily, they're all already there, but their official report dates are technically starting next week. Pitchers and catchers normally get a couple extra days just because it takes a little while to get going. But in that pitchers and catchers news, we got some very interesting information coming out of the Texas Rangers camp.
Don't
Um,
shock me now.
but Bill, would you like to share the incredibly shocking news coming out of the Texas Rangers camp?
Jacob DeGrom has a sore or tightness in his something or others, and was shut down. He was in camp for 1 hour and 1 minute. So, just in case you're curious how much you're paying him for 1 hour and 1 minute, take a look. They said it's not serious, and boy, if it was the regular season, he'd just be playing right through it. I call BS, but whatever.
Yeah,
Jacob DeGrom.
yeah. I'm sorry. I don't see that having a guy they're paying a ton of millions of dollars to. Oh, if it was regular season, no, it is not like that. It would. This is exactly what you and I both thought of when we first heard about this signing. That
Mhm.
it's going to be plagued with injuries. It's going to either turn out to be a godsend or a nightmare. And I think right now they're seeing the nightmare Jacob DeGrom's injury prone ability is going to be bringing to them.
Amen. And the other thing too that you like, the other thing that so I was on a live last night, and um it's interesting how many people um don't understand the business of baseball. So Clayton Kershaw is not going to be in the WBC
Yep.
because he can't get the proper insurance. That doesn't mean that he's injured or anything like that. That means no insurance company wants to insure him for uh, extra games that are competitive. That's all it means. But it shows you that there's a business side to baseball, and fans are like losing their minds. Oh no, Clinton's already injured. He's not injured. An insurance company just won't insure him. And unless he wants to pay for his own insurance, which we'll call that option B, he's just not going to play in the WBC. So what? You already know my feelings about the WBC, anyways.
Yeah, and that is the thing that a lot of fans have to remember. While yes, it is a fun time for a lot of these guys to go and play and travel a little bit and play that international feel. Um, Players such as pitchers, and big hitters like a Mike Trout, they they have extensive amounts of insurance on certain parts of their game. For example, Clayton Kershaw's arm is insured for $100 million. Actually, it's probably insured for a lot more than that. For them to have to insure it for an additional, what would you say, Bill? 20 games
Little less than that, but yeah, about that. Yeah.
will probably cost them upwards of $500,000 to insure. For 20 games, it will cost them that much money. It's not worth it for them. They don't see it's not benefit. So they will rather not, and in all honesty, for certain players, I'm okay with them opting out right now. Logan Webb is opted out of playing. I don't believe Camilo Duvall for the Giants is going to be playing anymore. He might be. I'm not 100% on that. I know he was. But you see it a lot easier for like hitters and field players to get the approval to go. The insurance isn't nearly as much, and they can afford it a lot. It's much more doable to player like that.
Mhm. I
Um,
Sam, I actually think that within the next 10 or so years, give or take, we're gonna see the WBC kind of wind down. Because remember, the WBC was created by the MLB. Some people think it was created as a marketing arm, extra cash, things like that. I don't believe that. I believe that it was when the Olympic Committee tossed baseball and softball out of the Olympics, MLB stepped up and said, okay, well, we'll create this thing. This will be a lot of fun. We'll create all this stuff, and here we go. Now you got baseball and softball back in the Olympics as of the last Olympics. So you really
mhm.
don't need the WBC. If I were if I were employed by the MLB, and I'm not looking for a job from the MLB, but if I were employed by the MLB and my sole
They know
purpose,
our number. They know our
yeah,
value,
yeah,
and right now they can't afford it.
yeah. So if I were employed by the MLB and I was asked, what would you do with the WBC? I would give them two options. I would say either we move it to November and we play indoor stadiums, Phoenix, places like Miami that have domes, Tampa Bay, wherever, right? Either we move it to November or no professional players on the MLB rosters will play, but you've got guys in single A, double A, triple A. Use those guys that you just drafted. Use those guys because guess what? Um, I'll take the Giants for example, Sam. So
Yeah,
take any one of your players, Brandon Crawford, right now, right? So let's say Brandon Crawford, we're playing in the WBC and a pitch got away from a pitcher and it hit him right on the wrist and he broke his wrist and he was out until June. Was it worth it? A tournament that means nothing except for pride? Was it
yeah.
worth
No,
it for you guys to lose Brandon
I'm
Crawford?
in complete agreement. I think I do believe. I actually like the World Baseball Classic. I would actually rather see professionals do it in type of feel because you do have the Arizona Fall League and stuff like that. So you're kind of like, do you get rid of the Fall League? Where you got so you could do one of the two things. Um, but I love doing it after the season. Um, and I think, yeah, picking one I think more the World Baseball Classic after the season makes more sense and make it realistically a World Baseball Classic. Make
Yeah,
it have a team, have a stadium in each of these countries,
yeah,
not just close to home. Have them all, have one. You have a stadium in Israel, you have a stadium in Australia, you have you have an arena in uh England. Yeah, but Japan. I mean, you got plenty of fucking freaking fields in Japan. Pardon my language, but I apologize. We will do our best to censor that out. But yeah, it make it a World Baseball Classic. Have these guys travel all over the place. But
yeah,
we could go into this topic for hours, and we don't have that much time. I think we've only got 30 minutes for this program.
yeah, yeah. So we're
So
skipping past spring training. It started. Pitchers and catchers reported.
woo! So two astonishing moves this week. You got Jose Alvarado signing a 2-year extension with the Phillies. 2 years, 18.5 million. Works out fine for both sides, in my opinion. Jose Alvarado was a huge asset to the Phillies in this run this last year, so I think it was smart. Bill, what are your thoughts on the Michael Wacha signing for the Padres?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out the Padres' identity, right? And what I mean by that is no disrespect to Padres fans. I love you guys. I've had you guys on the podcast and things like that. But um, honestly, the Michael Wacha signing, they say he's going to be the fifth starter. what they're in essence they're doing is they're throwing cash, like they're going all in on this season. And if for some reason they don't win the World Series this year, on paper they look phenomenal. But you're gonna watch the Padres possibly dismantle. And if they miss the playoffs, God forbid they miss the playoffs, which I don't see happening, but if they miss the playoffs, you'll see guys like Manny Machado opt out. You'll see Juan Soto sign someplace else. But then you've got guys like Blake Snell, who's good for 5, 6 innings as long as he can keep his pitch count down. Well, he's going to sit there and demand $100 million contract because that's what you just gave Darvish. That's what you gave Joe Musgrove, and you're giving Michael Wacha a huge contract. So I'm trying to figure out the Padres' identity. I'm it almost feels like, and this is just a Dodger fan saying this, it almost feels like they're trying to chase the Dodgers for one season. Now, on paper, I would I if I were a betting man on paper, I'd probably say that the Padres on paper are the best team on paper in the National League and the favorites to go to the World Series. But you still have to play 162 games. There's a lot of injuries that come into that play. So I just don't know, Sammy. I don't know if I'm trying to understand the Padres' identity. Now, if you talk to a
They're
Padres
slinging.
fan, they're gonna love it. They're,
I think they're
oh, this
slinging.
is freaking phenomenal. This is great. Look at where. Okay, you better get to the World Series this year. You better get to the World Series this
Yeah,
year.
I think they're just slinging mud and hoping it sticks. At
Yeah,
this point, they not to stay too much on this because we have a division we're talking about today that is the center of all of our pain and suffering
discussions.
recently. And that is not a play on words. That was meant to be intentional. But yeah, I think the Padres, not to, like I said, not to say too much on this. I think the Padres are slinging mud. They're trying to make something stick. And like you said, they're all in this year. And if they don't, Machado, I sent you a joke. I sent you something earlier this week that Machado was supposedly in contract negotiations for an extension. But, he's already said point blank he's opting out whether they go all the way or not. And he said, there's too much money on the table for me to leave it. So, but I agree that, if they don't go all in, if they don't win this year, if they don't at least the bare minimum make it back to the championship again, the National League Championship, I don't even see Blake Snell asking for an extension. I see guys leaving.
Yeah, yeah. So
I
I
just see them walking and nothing, and it didn't work. I see
yeah,
Soto
and
gone. I see Snell gone. I see. Tatis will probably move to the outfield because you got Xander at short now, unless Tatis decides he wants to move to second. But I mean that team. It could either set this team up for the next 5 years, or this team is going to implode in November. That's it. So
drop the mic. All right. So let's talk divisions now.
So we are going. So we kind of got a little into this yesterday. We dropped a little teaser, but now we're talking about the Central. We're not just talking about the National League Central. We're also talking about the American League Central. This is a centralized conversation this week. We will get back because we didn't do it last week. We will next week touch just on the National League East, because we only talked about the American League East last week. Next week, we will just talk about the National League East. We will give them their due. And then after that, we will end with the best division in baseball, the National League West, and then the American League West as well. And
So we just and Sam and I haven't talked about it. It might not be next week that we're talking about the National League East because Sam, I forgot to tell you, we got some guests on next week.
oh my goodness! Oh my gracious!
And
Oh my goodness gracious! You did tell me about these guests.
yes, we got some guests on next
So
week, and it's going to be a
in
different.
all honesty, actually next week might be the perfect week to do it because we will have one from both East divisions on. I'm not going to say who it is because that's a surprise.
We may have
But
as
it
many
might
as
be worth bringing
four
back
on.
the conversation.
We may have as many as four on.
Oh my goodness. So these other two people I don't know. So we will figure this out. This is going to be an off-topic conversation, people. But to get into the Central Division, Bill, I kind of want you to touch on the National League and give me
Okay.
what your thoughts are on this National League Central.
It's wide open. If you're looking on paper, the Cubs made the best moves in the offseason. If you're just looking on paper, right?
Right.
Dansby Swanson, they got Eric Hosmer. They've picked up a number of players, Cody Bellinger. So the Cubbies look like they're trying to make a run. But they're also in a division with the Pirates and the Reds, who didn't do anything at all, really, in the offseason. The Pirates and Reds potentially could have 100 loss seasons again. Uh, Potentially, no guarantees, but potentially could have 100 loss seasons. And then you've got the Cardinals and Brewers that are going to do what they do. If I were a betting man, I would say that the Cardinals are going to run away with this. And when I say run away with this, if I were a betting man, I would say you can run away with it with 84 to 85 wins. You don't even need to be
Well,
in the 90s.
well, as a betting man, I have to say, Vegas loves you because
Yeah.
Vegas has the Cardinals winning with plus 115, with the Brewers at plus 145. The Cubs are plus 550.
Wow.
Now, let's just put this into perspective. If you were to bet $100 on the St. Louis Cardinals to win the National League Central, do you want to know how much you would win?
Sure.
Beyond your $100 back. I'm not even going to include the $100.
Yeah.
If
Beyond
you bet,
beyond the,
if you bet $100, you're going to win that $100 back. But you want to know what you'll win on top of that?
what's that?
It's an astonishing amount.
Go.
I like almost. I can't believe I'm going to tell you this. $15. You will win a rousing $15 if you bet $100 on the Cardinals. Now,
Woo!
let's just say you want to go crazy and put $100 on the Pirates or the Reds. Do you
Mhm.
want to know how much money you would win
Sure. 16
beyond your
bucks.
$100 back if they won the division?
Sure.
$5,900.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, next week's episode will include Pete Rose. We're excited to have Pete Rose. No, actually.
Well, we're talking the Reds here, so I had to include Pete. but no, I think you're right. While the Cubs made the most and I think the best offseason moves, I still think it's the Cardinals division overall to run away with. Now, if you're asking from my fans' perspective who I'd rather see win this NL Central, I'd say the Cubs. I like them. I think they're young, they're hungry, they're fighters. They come from a gritty city. They haven't really done much since they broke the curse, a couple of years ago. They broke the 120-year curse. What? 5-6 years ago. How many years ago was it now? Like, I can't even remember how long ago it was.
2016. So
Okay, so you're going on 6 years,
7
7 years now. Since 7 years, you want to know what the Cubs have done? They've gotten rid of the entire team from that World Series. That's what they did. They got rid of Chris Bryant. They got rid of Anthony Rizzo. They got rid of Aroldis Chapman. Got rid of all their pitchers. Like, talk about dismantling a team. It took them no time at all to dismantle that team. So, I mean, I'd love to see Chicago come back and win and bring some fire to that city.
yeah, yeah. I'd love to see Pittsburgh be viable, but they haven't done anything. And it seems like the ownership is okay with them being just there.
You
So
know, you want to know what the ownership reminds me of? It reminds me of a little movie that involved Charlie Sheen.
mm,
A little movie called Major League. And
mm,
their owner is the female boss in that league.
yeah,
And she is just like, this is going to be the worst team in the league, and we're gonna
I'm gonna
lose,
move them to
we're gonna have
Miami.
most attendance, and then I'm gonna sell them to Miami. It's like,
Yeah.
But I'd love, yeah. Look, the Brewers have a fighting chance. I'm not even going to count the Brewers out of this because I think you and I can both agree that the Brewers really have an opportunity to do something in that division because they kept it close. They kept it relatively close last year. But my personal opinion, I'd love to see the Cubs take it. But is there one team that you think could surprise you in this division?
Cubs. Cubs.
You think they're the surprise?
Yeah, I think that they're the surprise. So I think if again, we haven't played one game in the 162, but if I were again looking just on paper, the Cardinals and the Brewers are going to make their waves. The Cubs can come in. Now, the Brewers have an issue, right? They have a big issue in their clubhouse right now. Corbin Burns went off on them about losing the arbitration over $700,000. So I don't know how that's going to affect the clubhouse, right? And how that affects the pitching staff, how that affects different things. That could knock the Brewers down into third place, maybe even fourth place if they're not careful. But I think your Cubs are your surprise pick of this division.
It bothers me when ownership is fussy over such, like, to them $700,000 should be like spitting in a bell.
Yeah.
Like, you're fussing over you had to pay a guy $700,000 because he's a good player. Like, you were over by $700,000 because you had good players that were coming up that were asking for money. Oh, I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
How greedy are you? Don't be the Pirates. Brew me some beer and get over it. Anyway.
There we go.
So
this
division. If I'm looking at this AL Central, I think this is way more wide open than the National League. I think there's a little bit tighter competition in the National League. Actually, no, I flipped that. I think this division's got a little bit tighter of a competition. I think, the Cleveland is pretty much the same as what they were last year. They didn't really lose anyone. They didn't really gain much any at all. Same with the White Sox. And then the Twins re-signed Carlos Correa. I think, the team for me that would be a surprise that I'd actually like to see do something is the Tigers, because it's Miguel's last year. I'd like to see him go out on, do something good. But this division is just so weird. It's so weird because all the teams are on paper very good, but never do something to wow you.
Yeah.
There's never that driving factor that's just like, oh my God, let's just look at them at the top of the game. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to get excited about this division. Bill, can you enlighten me on how to get excited about this division?
I was very excited about the White Sox, but they had a bump in the road with a signing, and we don't even need to bring it up here on this show. But they had a little bump in the road. The Cleveland Guardians, you mentioned Major League. They've not only dismantled their World Series team, but they changed their name. So we got they got one up on the Cubs. The Cubs said, "Oh yeah," and Cleveland said, "Anything you can do, I can do better." And so they even went over and changed their name. It'll be interesting to me to see how the Twins play out with Carlos Correa in the dog days of summer when it's hot and it's muggy and it's sticky and you're just, the kids are out of school and the wives are saying, hey, we need you to do X, Y, or Z, yada, yada, yada. It'll be interesting to see how the clubhouse plays out with the Twins, with Carlos Correa, who literally asked two girls to the prom and they both said yes, and then they turned around and said no, and now he went with his third choice, right? The third girl can't feel all that awesome about this, right? He may not even
Who
be
was
buying her a
actually the
corsage.
first girl? It was actually the first girl all along.
Yeah, I mean, the third girl / first girl, it may not even get a corsage out of this thing. So, I mean, it's like he's gonna show up in a Pinto, not in a limousine, and she's like, "Where's my flower?" And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go to dance." So, the Twins will be interesting. The White Sox will be interesting. The Guardians will be interesting. Unfortunately, Casey and Detroit have done nothing in the offseason, really. Now,
I
Detroit
know.
does have Baez, and they do have Cabrera, and they do have Torkelson. I think I said his name right at first base, who you're going to hear a lot about. And the Tigers do play in an amazing ballpark, and
Yep.
they do have a winning history. This division, I don't think is wide open. I think you're going to watch one team rise to the top. I'm going to hold that until our podcast that we do with a bunch of people on what I call predictions. So I'm going to hold that
Can't
to
wait for the
tell you
prediction podcast.
and tell that. But I do think that this division, here's where this division is going to help each one of the teams. Here's what's going to help each one of the teams. You play all 29 teams this season. So the Tigers and the Royals are now going to get a chance to play the Diamondbacks, the Cardinals, some of the other teams that are struggling, the Reds, the Pirates, the
Cardinals. You're
Marlins.
saying that's a good thing they're facing the Cardinals? I would think
I mean,
more
not
the
Cardinals,
Reds.
not Cardinals, Reds. I'm sorry, Reds. I'm sorry.
Right.
Whoops, Freudian slip there. Reds, Pirates, Marlins, Nationals. So that will benefit these guys. But overall, this division, again, this division could be won. I said the last division could be won with 85 games. Honestly, this division could be won with 83 games, 83 wins. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's again, there's nothing like I said, there is nothing that is like American League Central.
yeah.
Ugh, you know, you've got superstars in this division, but none of them bring the excitement really to the game that makes people want to get up and watch them.
The,
Like, what you know what, Bill? I'm gonna keep track. I'm gonna keep track of how many of these teams are on Sunday Night Baseball.
none of them, unless they're playing the Red Sox or Yankees or Dodgers, Mets, Cardinals, or Cubs. None of them will be on Sunday Night Baseball.
You
Guaranteed.
know,
Guaranteed.
you know,
Guaranteed.
like, and the other thing is the Carlos Correa with the Twins.
Hmm?
Let's just put this into perspective, fans. Like Bill said, their Carlos's second and third choices said no, and his first, which became his fourth choice, said yes again. And there's a reason why the second and third choice didn't take him the first time.
Yeah.
What the reports that I have read have said in 4 years, his ankle could be destroyed.
Hmm.
So the deal that the Twins just made for 200, however many $1 million for Carlos Correa could either turn out to be the worst mistake or the greatest discovery. And, he is the thing that is going to be driving attraction to this division. There is no one else right now that is driving attraction to the American League Central. So Carlos, do something to make your division better. Figure
So
it.
so here's the best part. I haven't looked at the Twins schedule this year, but remember the two girls that said yes and then said no to him, they're going to be at that dance.
Yep.
So wait until he goes into New York, wait until he goes into San Francisco. Yeah. Yeah. It's not
And I
a
think, and again, and now I think his San Francisco trip is not going to be as harsh on him as his New York trip.
well, New Yorkers are always fanatical about being fanatical.
Well, yes, but the other reason why I say that is because in San Francisco, we never really had an opportunity to try to negotiate. We got the rug pulled out from under us before we even had an opportunity to jump.
Right.
Whereas the Mets were given jump after jump after jump after jump, and nothing could get done, only for him to go back to his first choice. So, I think, well, the Giant fans are going to be upset. My personal opinion, I'm more upset at his agent than I am at Carlos.
Yeah. But listen, Yeah, but Carlos was there the whole time. So you
Yeah,
can't
that's
I,
true.
I agree, but you can't be mad at completely put it on the agent because the player could say straight out, and I'm not going to mention names, but there was one player that I know for the Giants and one player that I know for the Dodgers that basically walked into the front office in the middle of the season and said, "Here's what I want, give it to me." Bingo. And the agent's like, "Well, wait a second. What just happened here? You just took my job away from me." Carlos could have easily not opted out. I mean, listen, this is a guy who said, "Yeah, we cheated. Who cares?" in Houston, right? Get over it, basically. Then he gets dumped over to and signs a pretty good 3-year deal with the Twins, and then opts out after the first season to see if he can't get more cash someplace else in a bigger market. So this is an
Only to go
America's
back to the
sweetheart.
Twins anyway on close to the same average contract value that he was already making.
Yeah. I mean,
So
this
now he's
isn't
locked in for more years. So he should have just signed an extension the entire time.
right.
It's
And I again, I'm okay with him. I don't dislike Carlos Correa. I know there's a bunch of Dodger fans that'll boom. I don't dislike Carlos Correa, but remember, girl 2 said yes, girl 3 said yes, and then they both backed out. And now he's going to see those girls with dates at the dance. So let's just see how this plays itself out this summer.
yes, I agree. And it will be very interesting to see how it plays out.
Yep.
So we have a loaded schedule this week on the
Yeah.
podcast and a couple of IG lives sprinkled in there for a little
Yeah.
extra flavor. Little extra flavor. Maybe a surprise live will pop up. Maybe Bill and I will just show up on a live sometime this week.
Yeah.
But Bill, give me a little rundown on what we got going on this week.
So Sarah is a new is a new member to the clubhouse. Interviewed her this week. It drops on Monday. She's phenomenal. Huge Yankee fan. Lives just outside of the city. Uh, could tell you up and down their roster. She's just absolutely phenomenally talented fan. She's just great. I mean, we talked for I mean, that we filmed the podcast for about 30 minutes, but we talked for an hour on both sides. So, I mean, it was like a 2 hour thing. It was great. She was phenomenal. Monica has been on the podcast as well. As a Dodger fan, she's a returning guest. She's going to tell you a little bit. Sarah tells you about how her fandom started, where it started. She tells you about some of her favorite players. I asked her for her favorite player all time and her favorite current player, and she gave me a list. It was great. Monica is going to tell you about what she is excited about the Dodgers this season. And then Wednesday, we'll drop with the other 3 guys. We might be -1 this week, but we're going to talk numbers best to wear jersey numbers 21 through 26,
I
which
know who's
is,
number 25, and I know
yeah,
number 24.
yeah, it definitely number 25. It's a non-steroid era thing, so no, I'm teasing.
Oh, hey,
I'm
but you know who number 24 is, and there ain't a
yes,
question in the book.
yeah. Say hey, kid. The
Say
say
hey,
hey, kid.
say hey.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that one's going to be a lot of fun. That's usually with unknown baseball facts, Dave. We call him Mayflower Dave because he pulls out statistics from like 1892. It's pretty awesome. Usually Louisville Sluggers, Zach from Louisville Sluggers jumps on. Usually Jason from Bourbon and Baseball jump on, and we may have a person or two that also jumps on. Behind that is the Wednesday show, the Dodger Fan Show, which always gets interesting with Allie, Jen, Mikey, and myself. Thursday is a Bills Corner. I'm going to tell you kind of what's going on now. That could be a wild card there. There might be a guest that comes on beforehand, and we'll bump the Bills Corner. And then Friday, Grand Slam Sam and I, as you know, will drop our preview to this show right here, this show. So obviously you're watching it, you're behind the locker room, you know. So, but it's a fun filled pack, and we may get to the point, Sam, and I'm telling you this right now, Top Fan Rivalry followers, we may get to the point where we're dropping 2 podcasts a day because there have been so much interest in not only listening to the podcast but being on the
More
podcast.
baseball, more fun.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
yeah, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So All
So
right, that's what we got this week.
So Bill's got a big announcement at the end of this, but as always, folks, you got to make sure you're going to topfanrivalry.com. There are new articles posted consistently. These podcasts are dropped daily right there on the website or on additional podcast outlets such as Spotify. But there is some awesome new merch coming, including a brand new Reds hat that you can get right on the topfanrivalry.com site, red and black. Very stylish, very chic. If you're into that color, I'm not, because I'm Giants fan, so black and orange is all me all day. Boom, Bill, blue and white all day, boom. But Reds fans, make sure you get out there, get that stuff. You got to get to topfanrivalry.com. And as always, don't forget, if you use the code Grand Slam in all caps, it will get you 10% off everything. And guess what? If you're annual membership is coming up. If your locker room access is about to end, guess what? You use that code Grand Slam, it still gets you 10% off that too. It's incredible. And on top of that, there are some awesome new things coming for Top Fan Rivalry followers and Top Fan Rivalry locker room attendants and clubhouse members. Bill, give us some of these big things that are coming up.
Okay, so we got another announcement coming. We got another announcement coming in a week or two, but let me tell you about my big announcement this morning. This is a phenomenal announcement. Okay. Top Fan Rivalry did a very first this week, something that I've looked forward to and I couldn't wait to do, and we've finally done. We have sponsored a Little League baseball team. They are in Fountain Valley, California. They're the Pinto Angels. They're ran by Coach Daniel and Coach Jose. They are phenomenal. I know Jose. I played Little League baseball with Jose. I've known Jose forever. He is a phenomenal person, and I cannot wait to get out there. We're going to be there at opening day. If you're in the Fountain Valley, California area, stop by. We're going to actually have a booth. Say hi. Actually, at that booth, there will be a special guest there, so you'll be able to see who the special guest is that's going to be joining me. But hugely awesome opportunity for these Pinto Angels. I hope they win. We're going to, help them out wherever we can. We're going to have a great time. And I'm so excited that we were able to do this. This is the first, I'm hoping, of many to come. I'm hoping that next season I'm announcing, hey, we got one in Philly, we got one in Houston, we got one in Atlanta, we got one in Phoenix, Arizona. Like, I would love it. So those of you that are listening to this, if you have, if you know of Little League baseball teams, listen, let us know. Reach out to us on our Instagram, send us a private message, reach out to the generic email box of Top Fan Rivalry. Send an email to topfanrivalry@gmail.com. That's fine. That's our generic one. Eventually it'll get to me. Usually our marketing department sees that first, but it'll get to me and off we'll go. So Sam, first time ever. I'm so excited. I can't wait to do it some more.
We are all about here at Top Fan and around the diamond being baseball fans first. Mm-hmm. And right now, this new generation of baseball lovers and fans are just getting their appetizer into the game. And anything that the Top Fan Rivalry family is able to do to support these young athletes and give them the love and joy of the game that we all get to love and enjoy watching our major league our major athletes, give us on a daily basis, it means everything to us. So, I encourage you to go out and support your local Little League teams and your local, youth or athletic organizations. It doesn't have to just be baseball. It can be any athletic organization in actuality. But we're a baseball family here, so we're going to keep it to baseball. So, I'm super excited about this. I know that this is something Bill's had a lot of passion about, and I'm excited to help him grow this project and hopefully bring some of that to the East Coast. And I know we got Top Fan Rivalry family members that help us bring it all over the world and all over the country. So really excited.
One more thing, Sam. One more thing. We're ready to announce one thing. Are you ready for this?
I don't know. Are they ready for it?
So as I mentioned the Top Fan Rivalry watch parties, right? And you go on to topfanrivalry.com, you click watch party, yada, yada, yada. You ready, Sam?
What's up?
Bruheim in Anaheim, California is where we are going to be hosting our April 1st event from 1 to 4, Angels versus the A's. Top Fan Rivalry has rented out the entire brewery for the game.
Oh,
The entire brewery for the game. Now, here's how this works. This is why, as a locker room member, you are going to love this, right? Okay. We have some hard cost on this. As a locker room member, you're not only going to get some swag, we're going to get you some swag stuff, but as a locker room member, you're going to be able to get into the watch party for $10. That's it, $10. But with that, we're going to give you a drink ticket. So we're buying your first drink ticket. That's your entrance. If you're not
yes.
If you're not a Top Fan Rivalry locker room access members, it's going to cost you $20. You get no swag, but you can hang out with us. Sam, how's that sound?
I mean, that sounds awesome. But Bill, also remember, anyone listening to this is gonna be a member of the clubhouse. They're gonna already be Top Fan Rivalry followers. So
tell your friends.
Followers, you need to go tell your friends about this. You need to go give them the goods. Be like, guys, the watch party's free, but for $30 a month, or for $30 for the year. I'm sorry, not the month. That'd be crazy. But $30 for the entire year, you get awesome baseball content, and you can get a free drink ticket at this event and get free merch. The merch and the drink ticket are worth the cost of that. Basically worth the cost of topfanrivalry.com, and you get all the baseball access behind it.
Forget about it. So we're excited. This is
incredible. It's crazy.
Mind blowing.
It's
all right.
Awesome. Well,
so that's all I got to say.
Rivalry followers, Around the Diamond followers, as always, Bill and I are excited to bring this shit every Saturday morning. Bill, any final thoughts for the fans out there?
Go fight, win. It's baseball season.
It is baseball season. Top Fan Rivalry, Around the Diamond followers. We will see you next week on the field.
See you then.